life and confidence coach Dianna Leeder, and this is my podcast, the Crave More Life Roadshow. It's here we talk about emotional hits and lovingly kicking our own asses to get through them. Just so you know, it always comes down to being your beautiful, sassy self, living and loving from you, no matter what. So join me to hear about the healing journeys of other women, and you just might become a DIY ass kicker too. Hey DIY ass kickers! Today kicks off our podcast interviews with our first author of Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 2, Powerful Women, Real Stories. I'm so jazzed to be talking with Kelley Storum about the amazing book and her chapter number 10 called Thank You Mom. It will change lives. Kelley is a mother, a lover, massage therapist, author, blogger, self-love and body positivity course facilitator. Holy moly, I have to take a breath. She's one busy lady. Coach, healer, deep thinker, soul searcher, doer of things, creator of ideas, possibilities, and bliss, a storm, an outspoken critic of all things vegan and human rights, often opinionated, sometimes still righteous, extremely passionate, sexy, gorgeous, voluptuous, and feminine. I love it. I love it. You know what? That just, to me, that is the epitome of what we need to learn about expressing who we are without any kind of shame or embarrassment or, any of that crap that gets in the way of us just being who we are and being proud of who we are. So thank you for all that. Even if I did have to take a breath, I thought that was amazing. I absolutely loved it. So
it was
welcome.
Very fun to write.
I got to ask you, how long did it take you to write them?
It's taken actually years. I keep adding. I take away a few things. I add a few more things. It's about, self-recognition and self-knowing, I think,
Yeah,
it's fun.
Excellent. It's a work. It is fun, and it's a work in progress, right? It's gotta be.
We are.
Yeah. And they're the layers, right? I think about this relative to being aligned to ourselves. We don't just wake up one day and say, I know exactly what I am or who I am.
Shifts. And if you do or I do, it will change tomorrow.
Yeah. So here's another fun fact about Kelley, you guys. And I love this about her. She has fantastic hair. I adore her hair, but I really adore the glasses. She'll change up the glasses to match your outfit. It's so much fun. So much fun. Yeah. I have to find out where she gets all her glasses. Yes. We'll do that. We'll talk later.
We can talk. Yeah.
Okay. So, tell me a little bit about you, specifically why what drew you to this book project?
Oh, when I very first heard the name, I knew that there was a huge part of my life where I didn't speak. And it had to be a yes for me, but it was a scary yes, as you know. It was I have to do this. I have no idea what I'm going to write. And when I had to come up with a name for the chapter that was just a temporary, give me an idea of what the chapter is going to be called, the only thing that came to mind was Thank You, Mum. And straight away I knew that my story would be about my childhood with my mother. So I was, my heart was in my throat for 3 weeks. And launching today, it's kind of right back there. The last couple of days, it's been, it's out now. Yeah.
The world's going to see it. Yeah. It was a very meaningful story. When I read it, I could feel that too. And my heart felt very heavy. And yet there is a lightness, you can kind of feel you coming through it at the end. So maybe just briefly talk about what you wrote.
That was really important to me because I know, as you remember, when I was writing it, it felt very heavy. I'd written this story before to myself and I'd journaled about it, but I have never never put the story out to the world. And I always thought that the story wouldn't be told until after my parents had passed, particularly my mum.
Mm-hmm.
So when this came about and she's still very much alive, I was very, very nervous because I was going back on a little deal that I'd made with myself. So yeah, so the story is about my childhood and growing up with a mother who had probably quite undiagnosed mental health issues and was dealing with alcoholism. My mum and dad separated when I was 8 years old, and she was very, very volatile. And I was like her partner in the home, I guess, for many years. And the story goes on about when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I basically felt nothing. I actually didn't feel anything, which was kind of a shock. And everything from that moment on, I just did all of the things, you know, that a daughter would do that I, you know, not that I didn't want to do for her, it just happened automatically. I went to doctor's appointments and we saw specialists and we went to the hospital together, and she started to feel quite warmer than what she'd ever felt to me in my life before. So I thought that getting cancer was going to change our relationship. That's what I hoped. That wasn't actually the case. And when she came out of the anesthetic and she didn't have her breast anymore and she was still in pain, and she abused me for things that you'll read about in the book. It's a difficult tale. It was a hard story to write, but it was even harder knowing that there's a chance that she might read it. Yeah. So, but it was, you know, when I left the hospital before she was discharged, is the moment at 32 years old that I actually found my voice, particularly for her, because I'd hidden all sorts of things that there was, you know, a life that I'd never told her about. There were so many things that I didn't share with her. And I blurted out that I had put up with her misery and her abuse for 35 years or 32 years, and I wasn't putting up with it anymore. And I grabbed the arms of my 2 babies and we walked out of the hospital, and I didn't speak to her for about 3 years. So yeah, it was intense.
Mm-hmm.
It was extremely difficult to write, knowing that I was writing it that other people would read. And I think I checked in with you a couple of times to make sure that it wasn't going to be too heavy. I didn't want it to be a story that got sympathy. I definitely wanted it to make a difference to, you know, I know I'm clearly not the only one that's been through, you know, a difficult childhood. But I was desperate that the story needed to be told. I got very, very clear early on that it needed to be told. But yes, it was very heavy. And I think what happened towards the end was that I now know that in her way, she loved me. And I didn't get that as a kid. You know, I got that I was hated or I was wronged, and I was, you know, I was the black sheep. And I just got really clear that the way that she showed her love was no longer okay with me. Right. So, yeah.
So first of all, thank you for writing that. It's powerful. It's very, you know, we've talked about this. It's a very powerful story. And yeah, you're not the only one who has had a crappy childhood.
Yeah.
So I think the important part of that is that what you did by that story was to open up that topic for readers to be able to connect with something that may have occurred in their lifetime with their parent that just didn't feel okay. And even if they never go through a process of healing, because you obviously have, and not to talk about that in a second, but even if they never go through a process of healing themselves, they will have the opportunity to be different with their own children. You know, there's that ripple effect that is so important. Yeah. But I want to get back to the healing too, because as you know, and we've talked about this as well, one of my goals for these books is to offer women a platform for writing their stories. And I do that because I know that everyone has a story of some kind. Everyone, I am absolutely certain about this. I'll go on Oprah and say this. Every woman in the world has had a challenge to using her voice.
Yes.
So, you know, whether it's strong or it's weak at whatever point, you know, we are challenged about it. So partially because of our gender. So in doing that, to have a platform for women to be able to say exactly what they need to say in the way they need to say it is empowering and healing. And then, as you know, as you pointed out, when you go through, and sometimes that feels painful, but as you pointed out, then when it goes, you know, live and the public's going to read it, there's another layer that gets peeled and another bit of healing as you allow that to happen and you allow the truth just to be what it is.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about that healing piece for you, because some authors in the books, it's a lot, it's a little, you know, it's a teeny tiny bit, or, you know, everybody experiences something different. So tell us a little bit about yours.
I'm sure it was and I think with these kinds of stories, it's so personal. So I think everybody's would be different. For me, I think the first thing I felt was relief that I wasn't keeping it in. I then felt really wonderful that even if there was one person who found their voice from reading something that I wrote, it would be worth all of the scariness of the negative things that could happen from this book now being out in the world. Now, I haven't spoken to my mother for over 10 years, and most of my family, actually, my brother as well. And there's this, you know, this twinge of guilt, I guess. You know, I was brought up in, I was forced to go to school. My mum was a Catholic who was brought up in a convent. She had Catholic guilt. I had a little as well.
A little.
So there's still that little guilt thing, you know, like that I would be a bad person for airing dirty laundry. That's a fear that I've grown up with. But what I've become, and I think the healing in writing it and knowing that it was going to be read and it was going to be out in the world as an international book, is that even if she does read it, I am confident in knowing that it is my version of the story. It's what happened, not so much from my memory, because my memory's pretty vivid, but it's my version of how things went, and it's my side of the story. Now, I know that my mother would probably say things like, you know, that she could say all sorts of things. The majority of things she does is deny it all, and that would be fine. But if she thought that I was lying or that I'd made it up, there's that fear there. But I think I've done enough therapy and writing and journaling in my life that whatever shall be will be. And I think that's the biggest thing I got out of putting my words into this amazing book that you created. So it's been a whole, it's not been a massive shift, but it's been a very gentle, self-loving, holding myself healing, that, you know, telling myself it's okay, everything's going to be okay. Because like I said, if one person gets something and finds their voice, it'll be worth whatever happens with my family afterwards. I'll be able to deal with that. So
yeah, of course you will. Yeah. I love how you connected the you know, the self-love piece. because this is an act of self-love.
It absolutely is.
Self-honoring. It's nourishing what hadn't been nourished.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, it is a hug. It's like a hug for yourself. Yeah.
I love that.
I had to really do that. I had to really hold myself when I wrote this piece. Yeah. Inside of, it's okay. You have a voice, you have an opinion, you have a story. It's actually okay to tell it. And I haven't got it with me, but I know that you know that quote from, I mentioned a quote to you. I only just thought of it again, where one of the things that came up for me about my mum still being alive when I wrote this story was the quote by the author that you know, and I can never think of her name, who said,
is it Anne Lamott?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Who said, you know, if people, I can't remember, but I feel silly now, but it's like, if people are concerned about what you say about them, they should have treated you better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they didn't want to have their behavior described, then they shouldn't have behaved in that way.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So that also gave me power. And when I fumbled through that quote to you before I wrote the piece, like I just fumbled now, and you knew the quote and knew the author, it was like, oh, it was like this sigh of relief. There was a connection that had been made that allowed me, or gave me a sign that this was okay. This was the right thing, you know? So, yeah.
And I knew it was the right thing the first time that we talked. I think and that's common for this book, because you know, you were drawn because you knew you needed to do that on some level, and that's what I can see. That's what I can see in you, plus all the great love and fun and great glasses and all that stuff. So yeah, you know what, and it's interesting too to think about, and not to remove any responsibility from someone who has treated you poorly, because I think we make our own choices and our own decisions in the moment. And sometimes we have to be brave enough to not go in the direction that we think we should. Because I think everyone who is mistreating is doing that from another place of either, you know, harm for themselves or disdain for themselves. Like there's so much behind that. And I think it's so important to, you know, it's important to acknowledge that, but it's also really important for us as individuals to acknowledge that that's their side of the street, and that's their job to learn how to figure out how they want to behave in the relationships that they have. Our job is to care for ourselves.
That's right, because it's no excuse for such bad behavior. Yes, you can consider it, absolutely. And of course, as an 8-year-old, I didn't have any idea of that. As a 55-year-old, I'm really clear about the horrific childhood that my mother would have had. Mm-hmm. But it's also no excuse.
Absolutely.
Because I had a horrific childhood, and I'm making sure, even though there are certain things embedded into me, which I cringe at the thought of, that were similar, I absolutely made a firm choice that my relationship with my 2 daughters was going to be far, far removed from anything like that. Like it couldn't be more opposite. So if I can do it, we can all do it. And it took therapy, and it took admitting that I needed therapy, and it took a whole lot of things that I know were not necessarily available as freely to my mother that long ago. So there are lots of circumstances why, you know, I hold no hatred, no animosity. There's actually just nothing left there. And I know that the time is going to come. My mum's 82, that she will pass, and I won't get any other opportunity to speak to her, nor do I particularly want one. But I have to be clear enough in who I am, that's also okay. So,
Yes.
and that takes a lot, but
It
it's
does take a lot.
definitely doable. It's absolutely doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The word that you used that was so important that I heard was you chose. You made
Yeah,
a choice. You know, you knew what your experience was. You could have repeated it, absolutely could have repeated it, but you chose not to because you didn't want that kind of life for yourself or for your kids. And that's huge. You know, I really firmly believe that our, you know, when we decide what works for us first in a
Yes.
healthy, wholesome, whole way, life can be very different. And they're not always the easy choices.
No,
You know,
they're not. Yeah.
Your choices were, you know, there were challenges to that, but the outcome is so much better.
Yes.
Which you intrinsically knew because that's what was working for you. So yeah, I applaud
There was
you.
there was no option for it to be any other way, I think, is how I stepped in. Yeah. It took me a long time. I was married for 5 years before I chose to have children, and I wasn't sure that I could. I was very, very scared to have children in case it repeated. But yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to be fine. And the fact that I had 2 daughters was pretty amazing. I really wanted girls, and yeah, we're best friends. Like, they're just extraordinary human beings, and we say I love you 1,000 times, and I promise that at the end of every conversation that's what I would do. And it's a little thing that they've picked up. It's almost habitual that they say it to me as well. And yeah, I love that because I never got that as a kid. I got it when my mum was drunk and she was feeling vulnerable, I guess. So I wanted to make sure that my kids knew, no matter where I am in my life or in the world, that they were loved every single day. That was really important. Yeah.
That's beautiful. We are similar in that I have 2 daughters as well. And yeah, we do similar things. They get a, you know, sweetest dreams note from me pretty much every night. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
good.
And it's a gift. It's a gift.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I look back, were there opportunities that, you know, where I didn't choose myself as much as I could have? Sure. Absolutely. But overall, I think when we do look inside and we do figure out what works for us, what makes us feel good in terms of those relationships, then we're, you know, we've kind of got the, you know, we've got the world by the tail.
Yeah.
So to speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So, you were in talking about your daughters. I want to bring in, and I hope this is still the case because you and I connected about this a couple of weeks ago, but I want to talk about your other books, specifically the one that you have coming, that you will be the lead author of.
Oh, yes.
And your daughters are still in there?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
They were
Now, how cool is that?
They were my first 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a bit about that. And then your other, because you've been in other collaborative books as well that people might want to read.
Yes, I have. So the first time it happened was the book before yours was Wholehearted Wonder Women 50 Plus. And the lead author was Lulu Trevina, and Lou lives in Atlanta now. But when I met Lou, it was many, many years ago, 25, 26 years ago. And she's Australian, and she was living in Australia, and she was my yoga teacher. And so that was a beautiful story, how all of that unfolded and how I became an author in that book as well. And then I thought, you know, being in collaborative book projects was so exciting. I'd never thought of it before. I'd never heard of it before. But I thought, wow, what a great way to, you know, create a name for myself so that I've always wanted to write. I always had, my business is called Journey to Gorgeous, and Journey to Gorgeous was the name of my book. And that was something that I planned a very long time ago. I don't even know, maybe 30 years ago. So I thought, wouldn't this be great if I could write a few collaborative books, and then I could write my own book, and I would have a relationship with a publisher, and it would, you know, in about 5 or 10 years time, I could be doing, you know, exactly what I want. And then after your book became my book. So yeah, that's really exciting. So it's called Being Gorgeous, A Journey to Body Love. Because as people, as human beings, even though most of my work is all about with women, I'm really clear that there are so many body stories around, and from all different angles, not just size and shape, but I'm in communication with a beautiful woman and an old friend of mine, and I can't really say, they haven't said yes yet, so I can't say they're going to be in the book. But when you have a disability, you weren't born with that disability, you have a whole new way of having to recreate the relationship that you have with your body. And but I'm also looking for a huge diverse range of authors for this book, not just women. I'm looking for all genders, trans, all disabilities. The only criteria I have is that you have a journey to share about body, your body or the body, that you have some connection to Australia. So most of the authors are going to be from Australia this time. So I'm really proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
plus you won't be getting up early.
Yeah,
or late.
They'll all be this time. They'll all be like 10 o'clock at night. So you can be at 8 o'clock and we can be at 10. So
there you go.
And my first 2 authors signed were my daughters. So
wow.
Yeah, it was very cool.
And if that isn't a testament to, choices that you made that were successful for you and for them. Yeah. Congratulations.
That's
thank
beautiful.
you.
Thank
beautiful.
You. It feels good.
Yeah.
It feels really good. Yeah, I'm very proud mom.
Yeah. I can see that in a big smile. Yeah. So is there anything else, Kelley, that you want to share with people about your program? I know that you have is it a 10-day program?
It's a 14-day live program, that I run in a specially assigned Facebook group. I don't have a date exactly for when the next one begins, but it will be around spring, so probably September. Mm-hmm. It costs $444 for 14 days live. We show up every morning. The times will vary now that it's gone a bit international and people are contacting me from around the place. So I'm thinking that I will do it. Normally it was at 7:30 every morning for 14 days, and we skipped a Sunday. So you had like a day off on a Sunday. It's just a 20 to 30 minute, sometimes 40-minute conversation that's conducted where everyone gets to contribute. There's homework, there's assignments to do, that day that are very quick and easy, simple little things that you do throughout your day. And the transformations that women get, I only do it with women, are extraordinary. Can I share something really, really profound that happened to me the other day when I met a previous participant in the program?
Yes, please.
I've not shared this with anybody and I haven't really known where to share it, and I've asked her to write it, but it's quite confronting. So this woman is, I didn't know her, she was referred to me, very mild, very kind of hidden, suffers a huge amount of anxiety, social anxiety, and severe depression. She's a single mum. She hasn't been in a relationship for 18, 20 years. And we'd stayed in touch. She probably did it in October last year, and we'd stayed in touch, and she was a member of a few of my groups, and she would often, step in and say hi. And she's been a real wonderful supporter of the books and telling me how grateful she is that I'm around. And a few weeks ago, she called me. She lives about an hour from me, and she said, can we meet for a coffee? And I was really worried that things were not good with her. So I was, yeah, of course, absolutely. Where can we meet? How soon can I get there, kind of thing? And anyway, we were having a coffee, and I was like, what's up? And she said, I had to see you in person to thank you for what your course has done for me. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. You know, like, she said, no, you don't understand. I've met someone. And for knowing her like I got to know her, that was not a possibility. That was not something that was going to happen. And the body shame and the stuff that the stories that she had around her body were just sad. And I wasn't sure that anyone could break through it. But she stayed in the group. She stayed in the conversation. She kept watching the replays of the course that we'd done together. She met a man. She said to me, not only have we had sex, but we've had sex with the lights on.
I love it.
And for the first time in my life ever, I've orgasmed.
Oh, wow.
And it's all because of you. And I was like, no, I'm in the middle of the coffee shop bawling my eyes out. We've got takeaway coffees, it was just, she said, she was crying, I was crying. She was like, I had never touched myself, let alone allowed anybody else to touch me like that. And you did that. You need to share this course as far and wide as you can, because I can't even explain to you how much it's changed my life. I was like, you know, you write these programs, it's just literally me speaking about bits and pieces that I've learned along the way. It's not magic, but it's magical. You know, I got really clear that this has to be done and spread and shared and talked about. And yeah, she's gonna write me a testimonial so that I know at what level of comfort she's allowing me to share this story, right? So
yes, of course.
Yeah. So
wow. Incredible. Incredible. It is amazing. And isn't it beautiful to get words that come back like that? It's such an affirming and acknowledging piece for us as practitioners, you know, because that's why we do what we do, right? That's why you do what you do. That's why you created that program, just so something really big would happen for anyone. Yeah. And it did for her. And
it actually did for her. Yeah.
It did in a big way. And you know what? And I have to say too, that a lot of times, because I'm sure, I mean, we had a little giggle when we were listening to that, but in reality, you know, our sexuality is one piece of us. Yeah. Right. So, and it is something that we need to align to. And it's a beautiful piece and a freedom piece and an expressive piece that we kind of, you know, do this. I was thinking when you said, you know, her having the lights on, you know, we used to joke years ago, a friend of mine, and she used to say, yeah, you know, I've gone past being, getting on top when the lights are on. So, so, you know, jokes about that aside, right? It's a really big place. So yes, congratulations. And you deserve all those beautiful words. Absolutely.
Thank you. Can I just add though, if anybody's listening that thinks that the course is about anything to do with sex, it's not necessarily. It's the way that you now begin to see yourself. So she just took it to the next level. You know, we do lots of work on looking at your body and getting accustomed to who you are and what you look like. And she just took it on like a megastar and off she went. So the course is only as confronting as you want it to be.
Of course. Yeah. What a brave woman. Very, very brave
woman.
So Kelley, okay. So we have just another couple of minutes. I want to ask you, I mean, we've had a couple giggles in and there. I want to ask you to share one fun thing about you with our listeners.
Fun thing.
Yeah. Everybody gets this question, by the way.
Okay. I was an artist model for 2 years. So I posed naked for artists in local art communities and art societies and workshops. That's pretty fun.
That is very fun. Yes. And very courageous. And what a beautiful way just to say, this is me.
Yeah.
Right? This is
I've done it
me.
a couple of
I
times
love me.
since. Yeah,
Have you?
it's I have to keep doing it, because when you stop, all of the feelings all come back. You know, my business is Journey to Gorgeous. My life is a journey to gorgeous. There is nowhere to get. It's just how exciting you can make the journey, you know, and what you can learn along the way. I know it's a cliche, but it just resonates with me. So I have to keep doing things like that and stepping out of that comfort zone to step into who I know I am. So I last year I posed naked in an artist's shop window with 25 other women, and she painted us. And it was the opening of her art gallery in Sydney, in Manly, when she was a UK artist who got stuck here during COVID. So she's very famous. She has millions of followers. Her name's Sophie T. Lots of people will know her. She only sells her art on Instagram. And she put a call out for nudies. And I was like, pick me. I was the oldest. I was the fattest. It was, you know, and I reckon I was the funnest. And I was the first one to do it. So I didn't realize when I was the first one to get painted, because literally we just stood around while she painted us. And then I had to stand in the middle of the studio to dry, and everyone else was clothed. So I wasn't even thinking like, oh, that wasn't such a great idea. I was thinking I'd get it over with quickly, but really I was just naked for the longest.
The whole time.
But it was very fun. I've got lots of wonderful photos. The newspaper was there. Yeah, she got lots of coverage. It was all over Instagram. It was amazing. So yeah, that's probably one of my funnest things. Yeah.
Excellent.
Getting naked.
That is fun. It's always fun to get naked.
Yeah.
So 2 takeaways that I have from this talk. And one is that you know, write your words, whatever they are, your story, write them to help yourself heal. And the second one is get with Kelley to do any of the work that you need or care to do around body image, body love, self-love. Yeah, get with Kelley.
Please do. Yeah, I love it. And awesome. It's fun.
Yeah, you can see that. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And send me where you get your glasses.
Okay, I will. Okay. I have to think about it. I've actually been buying them online because they're really cheap. So I will. I'll let you know.
Okay.
I'll wear a different pair next time.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody. And if you are watching this live at 10 o'clock, which is just over an hour, on the Brave Healer Productions business page. So if you just Google in Facebook, Brave Healer Productions, you will you'll find our launch for Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 2, of which Kelley, as you've heard, is a part. So yeah, hope you come and join us, and thank you for listening. And don't forget that, actually I should say, because this is going to be on podcast later, this launch is August the 3rd, 21. So it'll be past. So just go get the book. Come and join us if you're live, but go get the book. And
buy one for a friend.
That's right. For 2 friends. Yes. One ready to. Yeah. So, and I just want to remind you too, listeners, I really appreciate you coming out and listening to my talk with the beautiful Kelley Storum. I always enjoy her banter back and forth. She's awesome. But I want to thank you for coming, because as you know, and as I say at the end of the show, just by showing up, you're kicking your own ass. You're doing some work that will help you become more aware and live the life you want to live. So thank you. And Kelley, we will see you in a little while. Bye, love.
Bye.
If you like today's podcast, hit subscribe at the bottom on your way out, and come find me at cravemorelife.com for even more DIY ass kicking.